I'm going to talk about, potentially what you can do to become more resilient and connected. So what can you do in terms of the core part of your organisation? I'm going to talk about, potentially what you can do in different industries about trying to understand your consumers a bit better. And how do you start embracing the digital world? Ron talked about, starting somewhere, and I'll try and talk about that. But before I do that, for those of you who are really not familiar with SAP at all, or for those that might have implemented some of the core solutions within SAP, you can very quickly and easily find out a little bit more detail around all our solutions by looking at our value maps. This is one for consumer products. We have one for wholesale and distribution. Even in the retail space, we have retail subcategories. So you can very easily go and look at these value maps and see which areas that you're interested in. You can see value drivers here. You can see resources around, high-level resources and sort of one-pages around these solutions. So even before you come and talk to us, you can dig into this a little bit and see what might interest you. Okay, but back to the main topic. So the three things that I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to start with how you could perhaps become more resilient and connected. And who's heard of HANA? Anyone heard of HANA? No one's heard of HANA. Okay, you will hear of HANA over the next year, two years. HANA is sort of a breakthrough innovation from SAP. And to try and describe it, if you think about your laptop and you have kind of two kinds of memory really in your laptop. You have a hard disk and you have some in-memory or RAM. Our HANA technology allows you to take all the data within your business and effectively put it in memory. So we talk about, it's a bit of a geeky term I suppose, but we talk about zero latency. What that means is if you can load all the data, well, you think about your laptop, what happens, your laptop gradually slows down because it's swapping data to disk and memory all the time based on the number of applications that you've loaded and the amount of data that's being used in those applications. This technology now allows organizations to put all their business data in memory in database. Now, what that means is that the speed of access to any data is incredibly quick. What that means is that we can start helping you reimagine business processes. A lot of the technology has been built up over the last 10, 15 years to actually separate systems because of the inability of those systems to run transactions or reporting at a decent speed. So we have a separate data warehouse, we have a separate CRM system, we have a separate supply chain system running MRP, and that's really because of the IT constraints. What HANA is now allowing us to do is to collapse this whole IT stack. Now, that's not just an IT thing. What that allows us now to do is combine reporting and transaction in the same kind of process, so that your business people can do things differently. You don't have to post transactions, get some reporting at the end of the day, have a look again, the day after. You can be looking at dashboards, reports at the same time you're posting transactions. You can simulate things much quicker, for example. So this is breakthrough technology for us. It's allowing you to accelerate processes. It's allowing us to change processes. And because of collapsing the whole IT stack, it's allowing us to simplify the IT in your business, which allows you to spend more time not worrying about keeping the lights on and the integration, but it's allowing you to think about how can I innovate on top of that platform. So that's kind of a 2-minute sort of whirlwind tour of HANA. We talk about Run Simple because it allows us to really simplify the data models. Completely Fiori means we've got a completely new user interface, a beautiful user interface, so not the old SAP GUI that some of you might be familiar with. And we're collapsing it to a single platform. We're not copying data around everywhere, so there's one version of the truth in the organisation now. Well, that's what you can get to. And again, I've just said, less time worrying about how things connect, and more time worrying about how you might innovate. Okay, so that's HANA. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about in terms of the kind of thing that you can do to make your organisation more resilient from an IT perspective and helping the business. The second thing I want to talk about is planning. So to me, in terms of the core business, there's two things. Sort out your transaction, your reporting systems, but how do I actually plan? And I know, I suspect all organisations in the room run some kind of sales and operation planning process. And usually it's very clunky and not very well directed, and it's very difficult to get the data, and it's very, very slow. So I just wanted to briefly mention, S&OP from a SAP point of view. We have now, because we can build this on this HANA platform, we have a completely scalable model around supply, demand, and finance. And within the solution, you can drill to any level of detail in terms of that data because we're holding it all in memory. And and because of being able to access this data at speed, then you can run in many different simulations. So it's collapsing the time it takes to run any kind of scenario planning through S&OP. So really powerful stuff. I recommend you to have a look at this. This is just a few screenshots of the process. So it allows you to. I don't know where the pointer is, sorry. So at the top here, you see there's a process that's mapped in the tool, so you can take your organisation through this process, dashboards to show that data, and then it drops into a very familiar Excel interface. But don't be fooled. This is Excel on the surface, but all the data is held in HANA and allows you to drill into this data. Here you see a sales forecast in blue that is spiking towards the end of this time period, and this now then allows you to simulate a number of different ways to actually tackle that. So what am I going to do in terms of my supply for that against that demand, and how am I going to build consensus in my business around this? So how am I really going to tie supply, sales, and finance together in this process? And what I really like about this tool is embedded in it is collaboration. So this doesn't need to be, I'm going to a meeting once a week. This is how do we actually collaborate across the different walls in our businesses and actually bring this together in this solution. So here you see some of the collaboration in here. This is going back to an executive review meeting with dashboards and the underlying simulated scenarios. Okay. Whirlwind tour, but I just saw this the other day. So we've had our big customer event, Sapphire in Orlando, and Tyson Foods presented at that. And they didn't present around the software particularly, but they presented around their business process, and fascinating stuff for any specifically sort of CB or wholesale distribution companies in the audience. I'm amazed they talked about this, because it's actually how do they break down their volume, so how do they do volume decomposition, and how do they actually run through their S&OP process. I'm amazed that any company would talk about this in a forum, but they did, and it's you can go online and you can have a look at the replay, and it's I find it fascinating. Okay. So that's just two things that you could potentially think about in terms of the core business and how you might plan. So understand your consumers. To me, this is the second thing. For the first couple of presentations, what it really says to me is that we must do more, depending on what kind of organisation we are. We must do more to actually get closer and closer to our consumers to understand what's actually happening in your market. Now, it depends where you are in the value chain. If you're a brand owner, that might be very difficult because you don't have the POS data. If you're a retailer, you have those interactions, and it's different. So I'm just going to talk about a few different ways depending on what kind of organisation you are. We've got a solution called Demand Signal Management, which again built on HANA because it's about processing massive amounts of data. And it allows you to pull demand data in from whatever source you have, maybe Nielsen or IRI, pull that kind of data in, consolidate and report on it. And it allows you to do things like data sort of cleansing and harmonization, etc., etc. But really powerful stuff, and Beiersdorf is pulling together 500 different consumer databases using this solution, pulling this together globally so that all their sales teams, can see sales analytics around the volumes. If you probably wouldn't have heard of Beiersdorf, but you would have heard of Nivea, one of their main brands. Next kind of solution, sorry, it's whirlwind, but so next kind of solution we have is a solution called Cloud for Customer. Now, if you're a brand owner or a wholesaler, distributor, how do I, what kind of tools and techniques can I use to get closer to my key accounts, the retailers, or some of the smaller outlets? Well, we've got solutions now and I'll just focus on Cloud for Sales. From a merchandising point of view, what can you do? How do you make sure that your brand is protected in terms of have I got the right stock on the shelves? Have I got the right signage? Are they running the right promotions? Well, you can run, looking at sort of day in the life of a sales representative. You can run Cloud for Customer, and it takes you through a process of checking into a store, going through a whole list of mandatory activities, allowing you to look at what happened on the previous visits. Are they running the promotions correctly in store? Is the pricing on the shelves correctly, etc., etc. So you can obviously pull all that data and report on it. And the final step in this process might be actually ordering products there and then. So this is Ron mentioned, mobilizing. This is mobilizing your sales force. And these solutions are fully mobile, offline, online, allowing you to do the pricing in store, order products, and connect directly to the back end. And this is, this is just showing that it's, on a tablet, smartphone, beautiful user interface. No reason why your sales representatives shouldn't use this. So, planning the visits, planning the routes, and looking at the previous visits, going through a number of activities, either mandatory or optional in the store. These are the contacts, and then creating orders. Nespresso are using this. I like to quote a customer for each section. Nespresso are using this to make sure that their products are positioned correctly, that's stock there in the stores that they sell through. Next solution. I told you I was going to be more solution centric. If you're running, so the next way that if you're a brand owner then if you're dealing with a distribution network, which is obviously very prevalent in the Philippines as well as other parts of Southeast Asia, then the best way to actually start understanding the consumer data is to actually provide systems to your distributors. If you can provide systems to your distributors, get them pulling data into that system, then you can report that back into the centre. And so we've got a distributor management solution. Unilever, Colgate, P&G are using this solution all across this region. Okay, so just a few ideas about how you might step closer. And I didn't mention retail then, because obviously as a retailer, you should be able to pull in your POS data as Adidas are doing, pull in your POS data, so you've got direct access to the consumer data. Okay. I know I'm rushing, but last section for you. So the third one is, how might you embrace the digital world? And I'm going to talk really from very briefly, from two perspectives, from a marketing perspective and an e-commerce perspective, how you might move from macro to micro. So how would you actually start creating more personalised experiences? So, certainly Ron and Sandra have talked about this. And to me, it's the combination of data. It's how do you collect this data? And on the right-hand side of this chart, you've got physical activities in terms of someone's buying something, or they're registering for a program, or they're using a voucher. So you've got activities, but then there's a whole list of hidden activities about browsing, clicking. So trying to capture all those activities and use that in what you do with those consumers. And what can you do with that? Well, you can do contextual targeting. So from a marketing perspective, if I know your preferences and what you're actually doing online at the time, then I should be able to target you more specifically. And this is just a very, this is a very, very high-level example in terms of, some preferences in terms of, Mary liking leggings and Jane liking jackets. How do I use that information? It might be the same kind of promotion, the same offers, but trying to make it just a little bit more personalised. And we now, so taking this a step further, we now have relationships with Facebook, so that you can actually not just try and target the people you know about, but how do you use this integration to Facebook to actually expand that further and get Facebook helping you finding other people with similar tastes and preferences. Okay. If anyone wants to talk about marketing, then we can talk about that in more detail. I'm just going to switch to the e-commerce side. And omni-channel, I'm sure everyone's heard the expression omni-channel. Omni-channel to me is making sure that you're treating your customers in the same way, no matter which channel they talk to your organisation through. And I don't think I really need to do this section because Sandra talked about this absolutely perfectly in terms of, if I've ordered online, can I pick up on store, or if I'm in the store, can I process that online and get delivered to my home? So those are examples absolutely of omni-channel in terms of how can I have a seamless experience with my organisation. I don't know whether you're aware, but SAP bought an organisation called Hybris. I think it's might be 18 months ago now. And we've been working very hard in terms of integrating Hybris into the rest of the SAP stack. And Gartner came out with a ranking, I think it was about 2 or 3 days ago, and we're very proud of this, that Gartner has ranked SAP Hybris as number 1 in the e-commerce space. So please, if you're not aware of it, haven't seen it, want to dip your toe in the water in the e-commerce space, then please come and talk to us about Hybris. But there's kind of two underlying principles in terms of this e-commerce suite. It's a platform play because omnichannel has to have a platform in terms of pulling all the digital content together in one place so that it can be accessed through many different channels. And I'll just show you a couple of screenshots. I don't want to go over time because I was criticised last time for going over, so I'm just going to rush through this. In terms of, this is what a product cockpit might look like. Everything in Hybris is designed so that the business can create this content and modify the web pages. So it's not reliant on IT to do these kinds of activities. So this is, a very simple interface for a product cockpit to upload all your all the data around your products and the properties around that particular product. It's designed to manage many sites, so you could have, if you've got different brands, you could have a different site for each brand, for example. So designed to run many sites on the same platform. We try to make it very easy to set up storefronts, so we have business content for different kinds of stores that you can pick up, and you can modify very quickly and easily. So that's the and one really important thing that Ron was talking about. Hybris is built from the ground up to be mobile. So you can very quickly and easily, in this live edit mode, have a look at what it might look like on a smartphone, on a tablet, on a desktop or laptop, and you can edit in that mode. So you can move banners around, pictures around in the different types of format. So it's designed to allow you to decide how you're going to display things in these different formats. So very, very powerful. So this is just showing that as an example. So this is what I just mentioned. We've got B2C storefronts out of the box. So electronics one, a fashion version, allows you to pick these up, modify them with your own content very quickly and easily. And B2B as well. Some very powerful features in B2B in terms of allowing your B2B customers to manage things like their own budgets, for example, or their own organisational structure within here. To look at their approvals. So from a purchasing point of view, if they reach some kind of maximum, it can be rerouted for approval. So some really nice sort of B2B features and functions in here. And just back to where I started this section in terms of going from macro to micro, how do you use this to start targeting more directly? Well, hopefully, for some of your consumers, you have some of their profile characteristics, and you have what's happening in the session itself. So, what's my cart look like? Which pages have I viewed, etc. So, what's my session browsing history? And how do I pull that together? Well, in the middle, we can create targeting rules. So you can decide how the website should respond based on that individual behaviour through that session and what you know about them. So what might that do? It might completely change the content that you're presenting. It might change the promotions and the offers that you're pushing to that consumer. So very, very powerful. And this is starting to get to how do you create that individualised experience. And then, of course, it's got things like being able to pick up in store, so buy online, pick up in store, because it's trying to bring in this omni-channel experience. So that's it from me. So will we tour any of these areas that you're interested in? Please talk to me, email me, jim.cook@sap.com. It's more powerful in terms of the core. How would you step one step closer to your consumers, no matter whether your tools, the solutions are there, whether it's ours or whether it's others, the solutions are out there in the market. Please just start. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it.